stop everything right now because what I'm about to tell you is not just gossip. It's a blood-soaked scandal that has ripped the comedy world in half. Reggie Carroll is dead. The man who could light up any room, the comedian who turned pain into laughter for millions, is gone. And the way he was taken out is so cold, so deliberate, it feels like something out of a crime thriller. And the name now tied to this brutal killing, none other than comedy legend Katt Williams. Yes, you heard me, Katt Williams. This isn't a routine beef, this isn't a staged feud, this is a murder-for-hire confession that has flipped the entertainment industry upside down. According to investigators, this wasn't just about rivalry. Katt didn't just dislike Reggie, he allegedly paid his own personal security guard to execute him. And why? Because Reggie Carroll wasn't only telling jokes, he was carrying a secret, a dangerous secret. He had gathered evidence, files so explosive they could expose corruption, shady deals, and a hidden network of power players in Hollywood's so-called comedy mafia. We're talking about a USB drive packed with receipts, backroom contracts, ghost employees, offshore accounts, and names of celebrities tied to dirty money. A drive that Reggie promised would burn down the entire house of cards. But before he could share it, before he could go public, he was silenced forever, shot inside a building directly connected to Katt's clothing company. And now, the alleged hitman has confessed in chilling detail. His exact words, "Katt paid me to do it." The internet has exploded. Fans are sobbing, outraged, demanding justice. Hashtags like "Needing Justice for Reggie" and "Comedy Mafia Exposed" are everywhere, igniting a firestorm online. What we're witnessing isn't just heartbreak, it's betrayal. It's the darkest scandal comedy has ever faced. If the evidence holds up, Katt Williams isn't just canceled, he could be staring at life behind bars. Reggie's death doesn't feel like a tragedy, it feels like an execution, the kind of calculated execution meant to send a message. Let's go back. Who was Reggie Carroll? He wasn't a rookie. At 52 years old, he was a veteran of the stage, a man who carried laughter like a weapon, known for being fearless, raw, and unfiltered. Fans adored him because he spoke the truth. But in the weeks leading up to his murder, something shifted. He pulled away from friends. He seemed nervous, restless, paranoid. Backstage, people saw him pacing, whispering about something he couldn't keep inside anymore. One close friend recalls him saying directly, "I've got proof. Proof that will bring the whole empire down." At first, people thought Reggie was hyping up a new comedy special, maybe a career-defining set. But no, what he had was darker, much darker. Sources claim he built a digital time bomb, a USB drive with contracts, hidden payments, documents that pointed not just to Katt Williams, but to other major names in Hollywood. Allegations of fake business deals, shell companies, and money flowing through invisible channels. He teased it online, hinting that he was about to burn the stage down with the truth. And then he was killed. August 20th, South Haven, Mississippi. Gunfire erupted inside the headquarters of Katt's clothing brand, Onyx L LLC. Employees ran screaming. Glass shattered, chaos filled the building. By the time police arrived, Reggie Carroll was lying dead, shot multiple times inside an office connected directly to Katt's company. The scene was chilling. Blood pooled on the floor, shards of glass everywhere. And in the corner, a burned hard drive. Someone had tried to destroy evidence. Ask yourself, what kind of evidence gets torched immediately after a man is gunned down? Investigators turned their focus to Katt's inner circle. That's when they zeroed in on Trinell Maris Williams, Katt's longtime security guard and tour associate. At first, Trinell stonewalled investigators, but days later, under pressure, he broke. His confession was explosive. He admitted he'd been paid to kill Reggie, and the money came directly from Katt Williams. This wasn't a random crime. This was a contract killing. But the bombshell didn't stop there. Trinell gave investigators digital proof, bank transfers, encrypted texts, and most damning of all, a voice recording. On that recording, a man believed to be Katt Williams can be heard saying, "Shut Reggie down. If he talks, everything we've built goes up in flames." Let that sink in. One of comedy's biggest stars allegedly instructing his own guard to silence another comedian forever. The motive? Clear as day. Reggie was about to blow the lid off corruption, fraud, hidden payouts, offshore laundering, even whispers of a powerful Hollywood producer tied to the scheme. Reggie wasn't bluffing. He had dynamite in his hands. The internet went nuclear. Within hours of the confession going public, the Justice for Reggie and Comedy Mafia Exposed were trending worldwide. Fans couldn't believe it. How could a man who made them laugh also be accused of something so sinister? But the silence from Hollywood was deafening. No tributes, no outrage from big names like Dave Chappelle, Kevin Hart, or Steve Harvey. Nothing. That silence didn't feel like respect. It felt like fear, like people protecting themselves because they know if one domino falls, the whole empire crashes. Meanwhile, protests erupted in Mississippi and Atlanta. Crowds filled the streets with signs. Reggie deserves justice, and comedy mafia must fall. People weren't just mourning, they were demanding truth. Then came the twist that turned this case into a ticking time bomb. Reggie's family stepped forward. His sister, through tears, revealed, Reggie made copies. He didn't trust anyone. If they think the truth died with him, they're wrong. We have another USB. The crowd roared. Journalists scrambled. Suddenly, this wasn't just about one man's death. It was about a digital weapon still out there, waiting to be unleashed. And that's when the FBI officially joined the case. No longer a state issue. This was federal. Because if the files were real, this wasn't just murder. This was racketeering, money laundering, a criminal enterprise running under the cover of comedy tours. Think about that. The shows you paid to see, the specials you streamed, the laughter you shared, possibly funded by fraud, corruption, and now murder. Fans were devastated. They'd lost a man who made them laugh and discovered the stage itself might be built on lies. As for Katt Williams, his career, his freedom, his very legacy now hangs in the balance. If the evidence is authenticated, those bank transfers, those encrypted messages, that recording, then it's over. No more tours, no more stages, just prison bars. But the nightmare didn't stop there. Federal raids hit multiple Katt-connected properties, tour offices, recording studios, and Onyx L storage units. What investigators uncovered was horrifying. Shredded contracts, destroyed laptops, and records pointing to offshore accounts. And then, the smoking gun. A second USB drive, hidden in an Atlanta storage locker. This wasn't backup. This was the nuclear bomb. It contained files naming not just Katt Williams, but 3 other high-profile comedians involved in funneling millions through shell companies, using comedy tours as a front for racketeering. Reggie had cracked the comedy mafia wide open. Suddenly his death didn't look paranoid. It looked like a professional hit ordered to protect a billion-dollar empire. The internet erupted all over again. Fans pieced together jokes, tour dates, and shady deals, rewatching Katt's old stand-up clips like they were confessions. Meanwhile, Hollywood's silence grew louder. No A-lister spoke out, no memorials, no anger, just quiet. And in that quiet, the public smelled guilt. Then came the leak that broke the internet. A journalist published a grainy audio file, allegedly Katt Williams' voice, panicked and furious. If he drops that file, I lose everything. Handle it before the world burns. The clip spread like wildfire. TikTok edits, Instagram reels, YouTube breakdowns. Some called it fake. Others swore it was authentic. But either way, public trust was gone. Outside comedy clubs, candlelight vigils turned into protests. Thousands chanted justice for Reggie as police formed barricades. Katt Williams, once beloved, was now painted as the face of betrayal. And then, Reggie's family made their move. At a press conference, his niece stepped up, hands trembling as she held a small flash drive. Her voice cracked, but her words hit like thunder. They thought killing him would kill the truth, but he gave us everything, and if justice doesn't come, we will show the world what's inside. The crowd exploded. That single image, a grieving family holding what could be the deadliest USB in comedy history, spread across the globe overnight. This isn't just a tragedy, this is the unraveling of an empire. And Reggie Carroll's death may only be the beginning. It became more than an object, it became a symbol, a warning, and a vow all at once. That's when the FBI stepped into the spotlight. For the first time, federal agents confirmed that what they were investigating wasn't only a homicide, it was organized crime tied directly to the comedy world. They avoided saying names, but nobody needed them to. Everyone already knew exactly who they meant. The fallout hit instantly. Ticket sales for Katt Williams' shows tanked overnight. Venues canceled contracts. Sponsors backed away. Netflix quietly erased his upcoming special from their platform, pretending it never existed. The man who once sold out stadiums was suddenly untouchable, toxic, radioactive, but the real damage came from within. His inner circle cracked wide open, associates flipped, former employees stepped forward to say they'd been paid in cash, forced never to keep records, and threatened if they asked questions. One even claimed Katt bragged openly, saying, "I run this like the mob. Nobody crosses me." Whether it was fact or bluster, the image stuck, and it fueled the storm. Katt, for his part, stayed silent. No interviews, no statements, no denials. Just silence. But his silence only made him look guiltier. And then came a twist no one could have predicted. Another man, this time a second former member of Katt's own security team, walked into a police station and dropped his testimony. According to him, Reggie's murder wasn't only about that USB drive. It was deeper. He claimed Katt believed Reggie was aligning himself with rivals, that he had become unpredictable, uncontrollable, dangerous. The USB was only part of the picture. The real motive was fear. Fear that Reggie would destroy him both on stage and off. That testimony pushed the public over the edge. Suddenly, this wasn't just about a contract killing. This was betrayal. Betrayal of a man Reggie once called a brother. Think about that. A man you toured with, shared green rooms with, laughed beside, ordering your death because your truth was too heavy. And as the walls closed in, Katt's empire began to crumble in real time. Reports surfaced that the FBI froze some of his accounts, seized multiple properties, and was quietly building a sweeping case. Prosecutors weren't only talking murder conspiracy anymore. They were stacking charges, racketeering, money laundering, fraud. And if those charges stuck, Katt wasn't facing years. He was staring down life. For fans, the grief only deepened. They lost Reggie, yes, but they also lost the magic of comedy itself. The stage. Once a refuge of laughter, now felt poisoned, corrupted, defiled. At protests, mothers held their children, chanting Reggie's name. Fans who used to wear Katt's merch set it ablaze in the streets. And across every platform, the same question haunted them. If Katt Williams could do this, what else has been hidden all along? This wasn't just one man's fall. This was the exposure of an underground machine, fueled by money, lies, and intimidation. With every new leak, every new testimony, the knife cut deeper. They thought killing Reggie would silence him. Instead, it amplified his voice louder than it had ever been, and now the world was listening. The world thought the scandal had already peaked, but nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared them for what unfolded in court. From the second Katt Williams stepped into that courthouse, the air was thick with rage, grief, and raw anticipation. Protesters packed the steps, holding Reggie Carroll's face high on posters. Chants of justice for Reggie shook the air like thunder. Inside, the press filled every seat, cameras locked and ready to capture the downfall of a comedy empire. And downfall it was, because the prosecution came armed with evidence that nobody thought would ever see daylight. Bank records carrying Katt's own signature, encrypted chats decrypted by FBI specialists, surveillance footage from the very building where Reggie was killed, showing Katt arriving hours before and his hitman leaving moments after the gunfire. The courtroom gasped. People whispered, some sobbed, others stormed out in shock. This wasn't circumstantial anymore. It was hard, brutal, direct. Then came the moment that froze the entire room. The hitman himself, Tornell Maris Williams, took the stand. His skin pale, his voice weak, but his words sharp as a knife. He didn't just confess, he laid it bare. He described how Katt handed him an envelope stuffed with cash, how Katt told him to make it clean and final, how he came back afterward to find Katt sitting in his office with a drink, saying only 4 chilling words: Reggie won't bother us. The courtroom turned to ice. Reggie's mother let out a cry so raw, so broken that the judge had to stop the trial. Even seasoned reporters broke down. The cruelty in those 4 words cut deeper than the bullets ever could. But it didn't end there. The prosecutors unveiled the files Reggie had fought to protect. The infamous USB. Inside, shell companies, bogus contracts, rivers of money routed offshore. And then the names. Names of comedians, promoters, producers, all allegedly tied to a web of organized crime hidden beneath comedy tours. The gallery erupted. This wasn't one man's trial anymore. This was an entire system dragged into the light. And Katt? He sat motionless. No tears, no apology, no remorse. Just a blank, cold stare. Like a man watching his own empire collapse in slow motion. Then, when the defense finally had its turn, everything shattered. Instead of defending himself, Katt snapped. He erupted, screaming across the courtroom at Reggie's grieving family. He betrayed me. He was going to ruin all of us. You think he was innocent? He was part of it too. Chaos. Gasps. The judge slammed the gavel for silence, but it was too late. In that moment, Katt Williams destroyed any shred of sympathy left. The world saw not an artist, not a victim, but a man consumed by rage, paranoia, and guilt. Then came a moment no one will ever forget. Reggie's sister stood up, tears pouring, clutching a framed photo of her brother. Through broken sobs, she shouted, "You killed him because he was brave. You killed him because he told the truth." The courtroom went silent. Every camera captured it. That clip went viral within minutes, replayed millions of times, burning into history. Behind closed doors, rumors swirled that other comedians were already hiring lawyers, preparing for subpoenas, angling for plea deals. Whispers of sealed indictments and secret testimonies filled the air, because if Reggie's files went fully public, this wouldn't stop at one trial. It would set off a purge that could topple giants. But for fans, the devastation was simpler, sharper. They had lost their joy. The stage was no longer sacred. It was a battlefield drenched in betrayal and blood. When the jury finally returned, the world held its breath, guilty on every count: murder, conspiracy, racketeering, fraud, money laundering. One by one, the charges stacked and stuck. The once untouchable Katt Williams was now a convicted felon staring down life in prison. Outside, the crowd erupted. Some wept in relief, others screamed in fury. Hashtags exploded, the comedy mafia destroyed, and Reggie won trended across the globe. But inside the courtroom, something even more haunting happened. For the first time throughout the entire trial, Katt Williams cracked, his shoulders sagged, his face contorted, and he whispered under his breath, "I just wanted to stay on top." Not an excuse, not remorse, just a confession of greed and fear. Reggie's family clung to each other, sobbing. The judge banged the gavel, setting sentencing for a later date. But the damage was already absolute. The empire was ashes, the illusion shattered, comedy scarred forever. As Katt was led out in handcuffs, cameras flashing, the crowd outside roaring, one truth became undeniable. Reggie Carroll may have been silenced, but his voice had never been louder. Because the files are out, the names are circling, the FBI is hunting, and the fans, once blind, are now awake. This isn't just the end of a career, it's the collapse of a kingdom built on lies. And it all began with one USB, one secret, and one man courageous enough to tell the truth. The comedy world will never laugh the same again. Ladies and gentlemen, what you've just heard isn't just scandal, it's revelation. This story was never just about Katt Williams. It's about an industry dripping with secrets, corruption, and blood. Reggie Carroll's story is no longer only about a comedian who brought us joy. It's about a man who tried to tear the mask off Hollywood's darkest corners and who paid with his life. Think about it, a USB loaded with names and money trails, a hitman's chilling confession, a courtroom turned into a funeral for innocence, and at the center, a man so desperate to cling to power that he destroyed the very brother who once stood beside him. But here's the harsh truth, this story isn't over. The files are still out there, the FBI is still digging. And the silence from the other names Reggie allegedly exposed still echoes like guilt. So now I ask you, whose side are you on? Do you stand with justice? Do you stand with Reggie Carroll, the man who risked everything to speak truth to power? Drop your thoughts below, flood the comments. Share this video until every corner of the internet knows what they tried to bury, because this is bigger than comedy, bigger than Katt Williams. This is about corruption, betrayal, and a grieving family still crying out for justice. Don't let Reggie's voice die. Make it louder, make it impossible to ignore, because Reggie Carroll gave his life for the truth, and now it's up to us to keep it alive.